Welcome back, everybody. We're now going to go to the second half of the semifinals. We just wrapped up a great PvP. Hero defeating Stats 3-1.
Yeah, it was a really explosive set of games. I love the styles both players showcased. Hero really adapting a lot over the course of the series. You can tell from map number 3, the adjustments that he made based on the way that Stats was approaching the game were just completely on point. Stats, it's kind of sad to see his GSL run end this way, but I mean, it's been a terrific season for him. Excited to see what he brings to the table in Season 2. And now we have arguably the top 2 Terran players in the world, certainly the top 2 Terran players in Korea, about to go head-to-head to decide who's going to go up against Hero in the Grand Finals later tonight. Oh, we're going right into the interview. I wasn't ready for this one. All right, well, we have a semifinal with 2 strong Terrans, Kier and Maru. Now, Kier, your opponent, Maru, he's one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. How are you feeling? Well, I practiced hard, but Maru is the GOAT of Terran. I'm trying to think of my opponent not as just Maru, but just as another Terran opponent.
김독 선수 지금 옆에 지금 조성주 선수 옆에 지금 보여주고 있어요. 야야 김독 방향으로. 장난 아니야. 어? 성주가 맨날 좀 아프다고 하는데 오늘 좀.
Well, it seems like Maru's been practicing a lot this season. His form's looking really good. He even has this kind of bandage on his arm, his shoulder.
지금까지 김독 선수 만나면 오프라인 무대에서.
And Kier's like, well, if he's sick enough that he can't hold his mouse, that'll certainly be beneficial for me. Well, there's a lot of times that you guys have clashed in tournaments before in the past, but Maru, it feels like you almost always have the upper hand against Kier. How do you feel? Maru says, well, you know, I do have a good win rate here against Kier, but he's a very tough opponent. In IEM and in the last GSL finals, my opponents are always saying that, you know, Maru is too strong, but recently, I'm not a fan of TBT at all. I don't want to play another TBT. I don't feel very confident in this matchup at the moment. And since we know each other so well, I'm not feeling the best about this matchup. Well, Maru's one of these players that always seems to stop you on your way to victory, Kier. Well, when I look back on what's happened in our history together as players, I think if I focus on my opponent, if I focus on Maru as being Maru, that's not going to work for me in my game plan. I need to just think of him as another Terran, another TBT, and just play my best game. So Kier, what is your expectation coming here into the final match? Because Maru is the GOAT of GSL. Kier says, well, you know, I've practiced really hard for this matchup here against Maru, and I'm going to make sure that tonight I'm going to be victorious. And as for Maru, he says, well, you know, I don't want to make any excuses about my neck being painful or anything like that. I'm just going to try my best. I know we have a lot of fans in the studio. It's a sold-out crowd. Coming a long way to come see us play. And I know a lot of people think that TBT is boring, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun. And I certainly agree. This should be a banger of a match. I mean, Maru historically very favored against Kier, but as you said in the interview, Tasteless, not feeling that confident in TBT these days. Meanwhile, Kier looks better than ever.
Yeah, Kier has been so strong. But look, man, I mean, if Maru wins this, Maru could win his 8th GSL.
It's crazy.
It's insane. Like, there was a couple years where he got close, then maybe he'd take one, within a long period of time, and then he would get close again and take another. He's started taking in rapid succession a lot of GSLs. And that's going to be nuts if he does it. I do think Kier, in some ways, for Maru, is a bigger threat than Hero. I think Hero could beat Maru, but it does seem like Kier has a better handle on what Maru does.
Yeah, I could see that. These two have a lot of history. I'm sure they also share a lot of their knowledge together, especially these top pro players in Korea often share game plans and give each other tips because, you know, it helps everybody elevate their game. Stats was even saying that in the round of 8 after his interview that, you know, Hero helped him prepare so much for the tournament. He learned so much from him. Now he's playing us in the semifinals. It's kind of the same story here. You know, Kira, Maru, Beyond, these are players that train together, that know each other so well. They've been competing in the same game, in the same tournaments for a decade now, more or less. And there's going to be a lot of mind games that we aren't going to be keyed in on. We might see some very tricky plays coming in, but given this is only a best of 5, I wonder how crazy it's going to get. You see Kira right there saying, should I go Proxy Rex again? He very well might in a series like this one.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. TVT, I feel like, is in a really fun place. A lot of the patch changes were intended to address some issues in TVT, so it's been a bit of a learning experience to kind of see the roles of certain units, especially the Cyclone.
Yeah, getting rolled back again.
Right. The Widow Mine, you know, is obviously more apparent in what it's doing.
And Maru, of course, is playing a Terran, but he said in his interview before that he wishes he was playing Protoss to play a PVT instead of a TVT. That's how much he hates playing TVT right now. And one of these things that I am worried about here for Maru is, even if he is the best TVT player in the world, even if he is a 7-time GSL champion, if you let it get into your head that you hate the matchup that you're playing, that you have to practice for, that isn't a good mindset to come in here as a winner. I know some of it's kind of tongue-in-cheek here for Maru, where he just isn't excited about this one. I'm sure he feels more confident in TVP and in TVZ, but that kind of approach mentally to a series like this one against an opponent of Kira's caliber, it could be an Achilles heel.
It could be. I mean, let's see what happens. We're going to start this off on Ghost River. This is a best of 5 against 2 players who know each other extremely well. Maru, the most consistent GSL player of all time, the 7-time champion, against Kira, who has been living in Maru's shadow for most of his career, but has been improving in every season and truly a master of TVT. Let's get this best of 5 started. Okay, Cure on the left side, Maru on the right. This is our map, Ghost River. You tend to expand, no matter what side you are on a descending, in a descending manner.
And it's one of the maps that got added during the latter portion of this GSL after the patch hit, where we had some changes to units such as the Cyclone, such as the Sentry and the Widow Mine. We also had the map pool get refreshed mid-season here in GSL, which is something that doesn't happen all that often. Let's go Liquid Cure. Cure fighting, of course, Cure on Team Liquid, a fan favorite around the world across many esports. Maru here for onside. And coming into this one, I'm curious how TBT is going to play out on these new maps because, again, they're still very new. We haven't seen a lot of players play matches with the stakes this high on these new maps because sometimes you get these maps, especially for players such as GSL semifinalists, if they're doing online tournaments, which they often do. I think Hero was even playing online tournaments quite recently, even the ESL weeklies quite recently, despite being this deep in the GSL. You always have to wonder if they're showing their best builds on those maps because the stakes are so much lower than a GSL finals and the prestige is so much less than hoisting the GSL trophy. And so I really am curious about the approach these players are going to have, both Kira and Maru, as we continue through this best on 5 on a number of maps that have only been showcased in GSL for really a couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to start things off here, a game where Maru is going for some tech pretty quickly. Factory about halfway done. And a very different approach here from Cure. Cure getting his command center now on the low ground. Just now taking his second gas. Which means that there should be some opportunities for Maru to try to come in there and strike earlier if he can with his tech. Now, obviously, the sacrifice of that is you get your expansion up later. But nothing too crazy from either side here to start things off in this TVT.
No, it's relatively similar. Maru just a little bit ahead in terms of tech. You can see about a 30-second difference or so between when Cure's factory is finishing and when Maru's starport gets started underway. And I think for Maru, this is going to be him leading towards some kind of really cute timing attack here on Cure that probably isn't going to get too much damage done, but should at the very least gather some scouting information and ideally equalize the small advantage that Kira is going to have economically over Maru with this faster expansion.
So we've got the 1-1-1 tech here from Maru now that this is done. So the starport's about to finish. Along with that add-on, there is going to be the first tank coming out here. Very standard opening here from Maru, and the same could be said here for Kira. Nobody really doing anything high risk, any kind of weird tech. We're going into a pretty traditional TVT. We do have the addition of the Cyclone over here for Kira. I don't think we've had any of that made for Maru just yet.
No, Maru's actually just going straight into Siege Tank tech. The tech lab here for Kira on the factory is only about halfway done, whereas his first Siege Tank is almost already on the board, which makes me think more and more that Maru is eventually going to be working his way up towards some kind of a timing attack. Now he's going into a Cyclone, potentially to reinforce. Should he decide to move cross-map? Back also nearly done.
Yeah, both players with a nice mirror image of two depots right at the bottom just to spot anything that could come in from the lower part of the main here for drops. Maru is going to be the first to initiate.
Yeah, and I like this a lot for Maru. He's actually completely foregoing the Raven, whereas Kira's investing a lot of resources in getting that Raven out and getting an interference matrix, and Maru's instead just going to go straight for the attack. Now this Siege Tank's in a fantastic position over here on the right side. Some fancy pickup micro there from Maru, and he's actually able to shell the command center from this range. Now, auto turret does have to be in mind here, but I think Kira's probably just going to be saving this energy up for interference matrix.
Now, if he gets the interference matrix off, runs in and kills the tank, I can't understand how Maru would be in a good position at all, right? I mean, this looks like it's a little bit high reward, high risk. The CC is at about half health, but it's beginning to be repaired. He's going to unload. He unsieges the tank. He picks up. He's going to reconfigure here.
I like it. I think it's because of exactly what you said, Tasteless. He's worried about interference matrix. He knows what the timing of that is going to be. And now he's reinforcing with the Vikings to really control the airspace and shoo these Ravens away. So it's a bit of a tricky position here. Okay, interference matrix is going down in that Siege Tank. It will eventually get cleaned up, but it might cost him a Raven, and indeed it does. So that's a nice win there for Maru.
Yeah, high gas for both of those. So a bit of a trade here. The third command center starts. The pressure's there, although it doesn't seem how committed Maru really is. I mean, it's hard to imagine with what both sides have that there's any situation where Maru could try to bust. But he is going to try to come in here towards this main. He's going to kill the SCV that's making the third command center. That's going to make Maru's third base a lot faster. And he's going to kill these depots. And you know what? It might not look like a lot, but this starts to add up. This command center delayed. The third, the spotter depot is killed off. Could be one of these death by 1,000 paper cuts builds where it doesn't feel like Maru's doing a whole lot, but every little bit of damage he does is going to allow him to have a much, much better and healthier position in the mid game.
Yeah, the fact that he's adding in Liberators now from this position is very scary here for Kira. We already have 4 or 5 Vikings on the board right now for Maru. And as long as he's able to control the airspace, it's going to be very challenging for Kira to actually come in and dislodge him from this position between the natural and the third. You don't really have a lot of expansion options here.
Oh, God.
As Kira. Oh, my goodness. Vikings actually come in. He almost is able to get that Siege Tank. Oh, is he going to get it? There's no repairs. He's going to get both.
Oh, my God. He just wasn't looking for a second.
Maru is so good. Now, the Siege Tanks, they are going to get disabled on there on the low ground. Kira knows he needs to get some counter damage in.
Yeah, getting those 2 tanks is pretty huge. Turns out to be a bit of a trade. I thought for a second it was going to be just a huge victory there for Maru, but got to make sure those tanks are unsieging as fast as you're sieging them up. Yeah. Is Kira going to go for a counter punch? He might want to try to push out on the map and do some more damage. A drop's going to pick up over here. Look at that. He still has a tank moving across the map. He's going to hit the main. And now, again, if you can just keep your third base up and running while you're making Kira defend his main, while that third command center is still landed in the main, that's kind of all you need.
I feel like if Maru was able to keep those 2 Siege Tanks on the low ground alive, it would basically be game over already. But as it is right now, Kira with a stronger army on the ground, Maru with a much stronger army in the air. He's even added a second starport now, pumping out Vikings 3 at a time. And it's why you see him just kind of trying to play this finesse game, trying to keep Kira out of position. And Kira, is he just going to go for a base trade? He is moving cross-map.
Oh, he's going to try to swing through the bottom, but it's not going to work.
You can't recall Kira, you're not Protoss, and now your main base is in a lot of trouble. Siege Tank right on the production line.
Oh,
the
my
Liberators
God.
are sieged up here in the natural ram.
Dude, I think that It's like he just got out APM'd.
How do you get out of the, how do you get out of this position? The Liberators, oh, the Marines are just getting absolutely melted right now. The Siege Tank is going to unseat. He even saves the Siege Tank there, just trading out the Liberators, gets 7 SCVs.
Dude,
so
he's
much production
so
time
good.
lost.
This is just crazy to me.
The maneuverability of Maru's army is insane. It's literally just Vikings, 1 medevac, and 1 Siege Tank right now in this moment. And he's able to get so much done with it still.
He's running circles around him. It's wild.
Maru, how many Vikings does he have, man?
I think
feel
he's got up to 8 now.
His entire army, it's like a Command and Conquer army, dude. It's just like all air units here from Maru. It's 11 Vikings, 3 Siege Tanks, and like, what, 2 or 3 Marines? It's an absurd composition, but he's making it work.
He's still mining both the gases from his 3rd base here. There's not even a 3rd base landed.
He has 4 times as many Vikings as Marines right now. How often do you see this?
He's going to come in here and drop again. Now, there are disables. Oh, no, I guess there are not disables available here, but he can chuck down auto turrets, which kind of serve the same purpose. They will be able to wipe the tanks out. Yeah, but of course, he's milked the Ravens for all their energy.
And 2 of them went down. I mean, the standing ground army right now for Cure is a lot more impressive than what Maru has, but as Cure, losing all these Ravens, okay, he is going to be able to get a couple of these Vikings. Maybe 3 or 4 should go down here for Maru. Some nice stutter step micro there by Cure. But even though Maru's ground army, oh my god, he's going into battle cruisers. This is absurd. I didn't even see the fusion core. We got BCs on the way, Tasteless. We're only 9 minutes in this game.
This is crazy, man. So this is the first moment where I feel like Cure's been able to breathe and actually stretch his legs out and get on the map, and he's going to try to figure out what he can get done. This is as Cure's 3rd base is just now getting SCVs sent over to it. Maru's 4th base is already being landed.
And Maru's basically just going into mech from this point. It's like Siege Tank Viking Battle Cruiser as a mech composition, which is not something you see that often, really. And Cure coming in here, again, he doesn't have any Ravens on the field. He's going to have to break this down the old-fashioned way if he wants to attack into this position. The Marines do not yet have combat shields, so they are very weak. It's only about 75% done. And with the double sensor tower here on the front line, Maru has a very good idea of where Cure is maneuvering his army. However, this force all the way down here at the 3 o'clock position might catch him off guard.
He's going to come in here and just shell this command center. Now, the CC is pretty exposed. It's a planetary, so it can't be lifted, so he has to commit to the SCVs repairing it. Can he save it in time? I don't know if there's enough SCVs to actually counterbalance the damage, but the battlecruiser coming in can drive these tanks back. The Marines are going to try to come and dip in towards there.
Yeah, but BCs have a lot of armor, Tasteless. Those Marines really don't want this fight. Okay, now they're moving forward. But again, one of the issues here for Cure is that he can basically never kill that BC unless Maru messes up, because it'll get to 90% HP, or down to 10% HP, I should say, and then it just teleports away. It's like a Blink Stalker that is way better than a Blink Stalker, you know?
Yeah.
And now we have 2 more BCs on the way. Cure, despite having enough Marines to deal with that BC, it's not enough that he can kill it so fast. Maru can't just retreat back at home. Now we have Yamato Cannon coming in. The 3 starports are online. We have vehicle plating coming in, ship weapons coming in. And at the 11-minute mark, we almost have Maru gearing up for a full Sky Terran transition. He's throwing down another starport right now. I don't think Cure's going to have the ground army to deal with this. He's now pumping out Vikings, I think, 3 at a time to try and corral some kind of force that can bring the BCs under control.
By the way, look at the counter growth here for Cure. He's just reached out so far here on the map. Even if we're on his side of the map, he's almost out of bases to even take. Oh!
So many turrets.
Yeah, just not enough that you would ever want to try to commit to doing that. That would just be wiped out mostly by the turrets, and then the Vikings would come in and clear out the rest. Now, is Cure actually going to be able to keep these expansions? I mean, the fact that he was behind for this long and now threw down a lot of CCs and has made a lot of workers, there should be a little bit of brittleness positionally where Maru might be able to push across the map and come in.
Yeah, especially as Maru gets closer and closer to a max army with BCs. He's adding in, I think, the 4th starport right now, so 1 starport producing Vikings and potentially 3 making battle cruisers is going to be a really formidable force here for Cure to have to deal with. And Maru, he's just expanding on his own. He knows that his maxed army is going to be better than Cure's. He might not even really need to move across the map and dish significant damage on his opponent just because Mech Sky Terran is so powerful in a situation like this one. But Cure, he's reaching a moment where he might have a chance to make a timing attack work, especially if he's able to find an opening where there aren't a lot of siege tanks in position here for Maru. But Again, the issue is, look at the sensor towers. We have 4 of them on the map right now for the Red Terran.
It's such a cool style here from Maru. It's like somewhat mech heavy, but mostly just Terran air.
That's Sky Mech.
He graduated to the airplay so early and so quickly. But that also has given Cure the ability to take all these parts on the map that we were talking about earlier, right? And he's got a lot more, you know, a much more liquid position to try to move around in.
And I think Cure, now that he's reaching max, should try and find some sort of opening on Maru's side of the board.
Well, Maru's going to slow move these battle cruisers across the map. He can teleport them back if he needs to, but I mean, how much is actually defending over here on Maru's side of the map? So much of the supply is just in these BCs.
You feel like Cure almost has to commit to an attack, but Maru is so entrenched.
And look, he can basically just do a drive-by on all these SCVs, just killing off whatever's available over here.
Look at the mini-map. There's a scan that catches every single Viking coming in to reinforce. Maru knows the exact moment they're going to get here. He's even getting some reactors right now in the main base. That's basically 2 less starports producing Vikings, and because he had the scan, he even scans to ensure that where he's going to teleport back home is safe.
Yeah.
Maru with incredible awareness. I mean, being able to just eyeball through the fog of war where to scan to check for the Vikings and getting it right on the money is such a cool unspoken skill that you don't really get to see highlighted. I'm so impressed right now. And also, the 1 Raven mixed in from Maru. BC's attack really fast. Imagine him getting the armor-shredding missile on the Marines or on the Vikings before the big engagement. It's like a couple extra attack upgrades on these units that already attack so quickly.
He's going to try to come and hit those Vikings. There are more tanks on the ground right now for Cure here, but only by a little bit. Like, we're basically looking at all the tanks in this game right now. It's so much more about this, you know, this huge air fleet that they both have here.
There we go. There's no armor left on any of these Vikings. We'll see if Maru actually decides to come in. Oh, Yamato cannon's even killing more of them.
And the reality is that Maru's air fleet is just more sophisticated. It can do more damage.
Yeah, it's got the BCs. It's got better upgrades. I think even the Viking count here is almost even, and now some nice micro here from Cure, but he's just not able to pick off a lot of these BCs. A couple of them do go down. Actually, some really nice micro there from Cure, but the fleet in the air for Maru is just so strong. The BC count, it gets reset all the way down to 4, but still, even with those wins, Cure can really find a position to trade into, and now he is also basically forced to go into Sky Tier, and he's throwing down 2 more starports in addition to the 3 you see in the main base right there, because if he wants to actually contest Maru in the skies, you're not going to do that with the Marines this late in the game, really. You're obviously not going to do that with Siege tanks. They can't shoot up, so we have Cure basically going pure Viking. He's now mixing in a couple of Ravens against Maru with Vikings BCs and the 1 or 2 Ravens just for the armor-shredding missile. And you got to give it to Maru here. He's been able to navigate this game to a split map scenario with the better composition so flawlessly and off the back of some really unique aggression with the Vikings and the medevacs early on in the game. I mean, that really gave him the space he needed to get the ball rolling with this style that is one of the slowest to get online in StarCraft 2.
You know, I got to point out, we're out of expansions on the map.
Yeah.
So this is probably going to come down to if Maru can force Cure off one of these expansions. And I think the only one that can really be is the one that's just to the bottom left. Yeah, this one right over here.
It almost reminds me of the way that Maru was... was it Maru, the Terran that was pushing in against stats when he had all the missile turrets right there in the front?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is getting a little bit scary. It just seems like, especially with the placement of the turrets advancing this, it's almost like a tank, but really a turret push because it's air versus air. He's now in range of this base, which means that it's up to Cure here to try to lash out. This is the, oh my God, huge armor shred. Maru's hitting Cure's first.
On both sides, big armor-shredding missiles, and those Marines actually worth a lot of value right now if those armor-shredding missiles are able to connect. So that attack happening right before Maru finishes, or Cure finishes, excuse me, 3-3. Vehicle plating level 3 going to finish for Maru here as well. But now this planetary is getting shelled. Maru has been able to encroach his way all the way to this expansion. Oh, the Ravens, they get forgotten right there as Cure navigates his army into the middle of the map.
I got to say, it's important to remember how this game started out, and that it was Maru dunking on Cure and running circles around him, and he went all the way back to this point in time, but it seems like Maru has now pushed his advantage once more. The Yamatos are going to be spread back out here with that the Vikings beginning to thin out here on both sides. It seems like there's just a little bit more here for Cure, just enough that he can drive him back. But of course, they can always flee to the safety of those turrets over there.
Yeah, the issue is that this base might get taken out. Now,
Yeah.
Cure is slowly starting to eat away here at the Sky Army of Maru, but oh my god, look at the unit tab. We have Thors coming in for Maru to assist on the ground. This is Gumiho's dream right here. BC's Vikings and Thors with his siege tank push coming through. And I think that's the final missing piece that Maru needs, but with Cure right now with his bio, he might actually be able to breach this position at last.
Yeah, Cure's going to be able to lash back out over here. Clean out the sensor towers and the turrets. We've had the supply refilled back in here with the battle cruisers, the Thors, everything else. But so far, the kind of static defense that was really the bones, like the backbone of this position, has been wiped out.
The Planetary notably was able to survive during all of this,
Right.
so you're able to fully mine off of that base. But Maru continues to hone in on it as a target. Both players scanning to see exactly what the enemy's army composition is. Concussive Shell getting research to the 19-minute mark here for Cure. And it looks like some of these SCVs are just going to be sacrificed. Or how big of a pull is this? I think this is just to free up the supply. For a moment, it looked like Cure might actually be moving with some of his army along with those SCVs, but being caught in a position like this also means the Planetary is going to get taken out. So he's going to stem forward. Cure trying to make some more damage happen, able to pick off a couple of these siege tanks. Disable's coming in on the battle cruisers, but actually, wait, there aren't more siege tanks here. I thought underneath all of the fleet there for Maru, there were more tanks that were, hidden underneath.
The BCs aren't going to be that good versus this. Did Maru mess this up?
Oh, it just has barely enough. I mean, it's so Marauder heavy that the Marines, they can't really get the connections they need on the BCs, and the BCs are also able to use that dead airspace to micro away.
But Cure can just kind of regroup, can't he? I mean, he's able, what he's making comes out much more quickly. It's Viking with a lot of infantry. What Maru's making is Viking, but then Thors and battle cruisers in there. So when we see a battle cruiser or a Thor picked off, it's devastating. And of course, Marauders can take on Thors no problem.
Well, we are going to have both players maxing out yet again. 7 BCs in the sky right now for Maru. In terms of unit count here for Cure, he has a pretty sizable number of Marines, but the issue really is getting surface area on those BCs once the actual fight commences. In terms of Viking count, Cure is actually sitting on 26, way higher than I thought he did have. So there is a chance, but for Cure, I think the first step has to be establishing this base here in the middle. If Maru is able to delay that base from mining for long enough, then eventually Cure is going to bleed out after he remaxes again and again and again once these skirmishes continue. Because the army composition that Maru is going for is just going to be more efficient.
Right. Well, he's back to setting up over here. The bases, all of them, slowly draining away. There will eventually be no more minerals on this map. This could be a game where both sides mine out, and it has to be sorted from there.
It could be a game where Maru mines out and Cure can't because he can never secure this base down here.
Yeah, he may end up winning because he's just had to kind of keep fighting for this base.
Right, another engagement coming in. The Marines, you can see him try to focus down these BCs. The Vikings a little bit late to the party right now. Bio finally able to clean up those Thors. The Vikings are coming in, but they're under. Missile turrets,
what?
almost every single BC's been disabled, but it doesn't matter. They tank so much of the damage.
Dude, it's so crazy. I'm looking at this. I'm like, I have no idea who actually is supposed to win this.
Oh! The blink forward with the BCs. It's not as dramatic because it takes them a long time to actually pop out, but for a moment it was really cool. And Maru just continuing to press his advantage. He is not going to give Cure the time that he needs to remax. There are only 8 Marines and 3 Vikings out right now for Cure. And one of the benefits of this army here for Maru is he can just camp the production as soon as he gets in the main base. And that might just be the severing blow here.
This is wild, man. It's funny, too. I could see both players thought they had it, but Maru knew he had it. GG, game 1 goes to Maru. I got to say, you got more different experiences in that game than you would in any other normal TVT. The fact that it started out the way it did, Cure survived it. We went all the way into this really obtuse mech Skyterran tech, whereas Cure was going for bio on the ground. He had some tanks, but then switched also into his own Skyterran composition.
And the transition from Maru for a portion of time, it was almost like Viking mech. You know, he had 3 or 4 siege tanks, a handful of Marines just left over from the earlier engagements, And then what, like a dozen plus Vikings? And he's flying around with 2 siege tanks and a medevac and all of his Vikings and just running circles around Cure. Because when you go for that 1-1-1 opening, you're investing your gas in the high-tech units. You're not getting stim.
Yeah.
And if you can't contest the air with your own Vikings, how do you really stop them? It's like trying to fight Blinkstalkers or something because they can just go from the triangle third right into the main base in the blink of an eye. And Maru was just able to buy all of the time he needed to get the BC tech online with 4 bases so quickly, unbelievably fast. Guys, we're getting ready to go into set number 2 on Post Youth. Let's see if Maru is going to go mech again or what he's going to bring to the table here in game number 2.
Okay, Kier in the top right, Maru in the bottom left. And, man, you know, that was so wild to see the buildup of the compositions. Not a normal TVT cast for sure. You know, a pretty early battlecruiser tech because Maru had this, like, pretty wild lead. And also, Kier's response to it was really smart. He just, like, said, okay, you're making battlecruisers, you can't do anything. I'm going to take a lot of the map. And he basically took all the bases. And then, you know, we got to this moment where, like, I don't know about you, State. I wasn't totally clear on who won that final fight until it was obvious. Like,
yeah, for a moment it was hard to read because you saw every single battlecruiser get disabled, and the Vikings came in, and there was the armor shredding missile, and you're like, wait, can Cure actually handle this?
I guess even if the battlecruisers are tanking some of the shots, because Vikings are going to be getting obliterated on both sides. Maybe that just gives you like a little bit more sustainability.
I think it
does. There's more hit
hit
points there, and you know it's not just about like who has more hit points. Once you start to get kills and wipe those units out, then their damage isn't going to be part of the trade.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think of Marines without upgrades attacking battle cruisers without upgrades, and how awful it feels for the player with Marines because they just absolutely tickle the BCs.
Yeah,
they do almost no damage. But once both players get to 3-3, it's the exact same story. The interaction's almost effectively the same in that regard with the Marine DPS and the battlecruiser armor. And so, as a result, the BCs were just able to tank pretty much all the shot from the Marines. Maru had his Vikings over there on the right side. And for a moment, it seemed like Cure, with his Viking count, was going to be able to take it, especially after the Thors were mopped up by the Marauders. But it just did not work out.
No.
I mean, in the blink of an eye, you can see the reason why Maru was building towards that army composition all game long, because it is truly the supreme endgame comp.
So let's talk about this map for a second here. We have these new, we didn't have maps like this before. And look, I know there's a little bit of controversy with some of these maps. I think this is good. I think this is something StarCraft 2 needed to do that StarCraft 1 did a while ago. Well, even before StarCraft 2 came out, StarCraft 1 was starting to at least experiment with maps and different ideas. And so this is one of those kind of maps. So in this map, you start out with another base that you can take, or another expansion location you can take inside of your base, and it's got gold minerals.
Yeah, half of them are
at
gold.
At least some of them, yeah.
Half are gold, half are blue. Overall, the total amount of minerals in that base, because of the gold minerals, and of course it only has 6 patches, it's less, so it'll mine out more quickly, but it does change the early game dynamics in terms of macro quite a bit, because you're going to saturate those gold patches as fast as possible. You're going to have 6 SCVs, drones, probes on them mining as soon as you possibly can. And the pacing of the game is a little bit different from that. And honestly, even when gold bases were added to StarCraft 2, I mean, back then I was playing full-time and I absolutely hated it because that's when like the Stefano Roach Max was so popular and I would just get owned every single time. It was dreadful, but coming in now with some of these map makers mixing in bases like this one where there are only 3 gold patches, or there's a patch, there will be a base that has, I can't remember the name of the map of the pool, but it has like 5 patches with no gas that you can mine from, and they're all gold. It's very unique, very fun. And by the way, little cute interaction right here. We're both just flying past each other.
Yep, medevac high five there.
Uh-huh.
By the way, for those of you who wonder, what if this isn't a good map long-term? Well, then we won't use it. But we want to at least try these ideas. It's how we can learn more about the game.
I love it.
So the initial drop comes in. It's going to drive him back out. It's going to be a cyclone drop. A cyclone drop here. in the main. I don't think too much is going to get done. Although, as I say that, this is a pretty exposed part here inside the starting location.
It's a little Bjorn army right here. We have two Reapers, a Hellion, 2 Marines, and a Widowmine. Everything is going to get out. That is great. That's some lost mining time right there. I think an SCV went down.
He's going to intercept it with the Cyclone.
Is he going to be able to catch it, though? Maru's already dropped down. The Vikings, or not the Vikings, excuse me. The Reapers do spot it. Oh, the Vikings coming in. Cure really wants to get this kill.
Dude, look at the movement here from Maru.
He's just so good.
He's so on top of it. He's got reinforcements coming. It's a different push from the last game, and I'm not sure where exactly he can hit. He might just be trying to stay outside. No, that was really him coming up there to try to protect and then escort this army back home.
Yeah, and he knows that medevac is still on the board too, so he has to keep his eyes out for that. Coming into the main base, and Maru's already been beelining here. Oh, actually going for the full HP mule. Maru is able to save it with 4 HP left. Oh, that's great. Losing a mule like that as soon as you drop it is so painful. So many minerals down the drain.
Oh, yeah.
I think Kira's going to try and come back in for it, but it would be quite
Finish
dangerous.
The job.
I was going for the medevac. A little bit greedy, but I mean, just kind of take what you can get. And oh my goodness, Maru.
Just leaving a little surprise there. I guess better to have the tank soak some damage. If he wants to repair it, he can.
It also spots the push moving out too, though. Maru knows exactly what he has to deal with right now. Interference Matrix already done, by the way, for Maru.
Yeah, is this a mistake here from Cure? He's got not enough medevacs to pick everything up and get away. Not that Maru, I mean, it's the same thing for Maru, but you know, you got to be careful with tanks because they're not fast.
I mean, Cure doesn't have a third base. Okay, Disable's coming in on these 2 siege tanks. The low HP one got hit by the mine earlier, immediately gets taken out.
Oh my God.
And Maru is cleaning up this army with a third base on the low ground right now.
It's so crazy. He used those extra gold minerals to take a super fast third. That way he can get even more gases to help fund the rest of his TVT army here. Scans come down and reveal that there's going to be a drop in the main. What's actually back here?
A lot of depots tasteless.
Yeah.
Maru's about to get big time supply blocked if Cure is able to siege this position up, but see him coming in, actually dropping in a mule to mine out this path. So that's a little bit easier to come back
do that. Yeah, super smart. He's going to snipe the Vikings. He keeps one alive.
Yeah, these Marines should get cleaned up here in the main base. And I mean, Cure, maybe if he was able to retain, you know, at least 1 or 2 of those siege tanks after that earlier engagement, this army would have more staying power. But as it is, Maru's really good at keeping pace with this one. Oh, no, the reinforcement too gets pat. This is one of the things that happens, by the way, in maps when they're newly introduced is it takes a while to familiarize yourself. And oh my goodness, Disable on one of the siege tanks as well. There are 2 liberators, but Maru has just enough with unsieged tanks. He cleans it up. GG. Maru on 3 bases to Cure's 2. Cure had just that then thrown down the 3rd command center on the low ground, and it didn't matter.
That was insane.
Maru,
wow, I mean, he's firing on all cylinders, man.
He's the best TVT player in the world, it looks like. I mean,
it's so insane to me.
You look at the stats. I mean, anyone in the world could look at the stats for Maru on a Ligalac and be like, yeah, this guy is the best at TVT. That goes without saying. But then you actually see a game like that one, the way it plays out. Maru greedily going for a third base on the low ground, trying pressure. Cure attempts to set up a trap after that pressure, but Maru is just good enough with the movement that it doesn't amount to anything. He leaves the Widowmine. He spots the siege tank push coming out.
Yeah.
He's able to meet it at the precisely right moment. I mean, everything for Maru there was so well played. In Cure, with a timing attack on 2 bases that should have been able to get something done, just completely floundered. And now Maru is 1 map win from a 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. Cure, again, not looking bad, but Maru just always having an answer. He has the instinct as well. Guys, let's go into this 3rd game. Okay, Cure in the top left, Maru in the bottom right. And, you know, it's funny. It was a game where I think we're probably going to see Maru just always edge out on the map for a little bit and just try to see what he can do. But that was the first game where Cure got his turn, and he completely got judo flipped.
It was pretty crazy. And a lot of it goes back to that Widowmine, too, because when that attack commenced, so many fans here in the crowd. Thank you guys for coming down. Let's go, Maru. One map went away. But when that attack commenced to the front line, Maru had 2 disables on the 2 high HP siege tanks in the front. He didn't even disable the one in the back. I don't know if he had the energy for it.
Yeah.
Because it was on, what, 10% HP? He just clicks it, it immediately goes down, and suddenly the big firepower that Cure has been building up to this entire time, the backbone of the push, the 3 siege tanks, evaporate into nothing.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it's a 2-base push basically doesn't even matter anymore. The army advantage is gone there for Cure, but he still has to try and get something done because his 3rd base expansion is like a full CC of production and an orbital command behind. And Maru, I mean, as you said, he judo flipped him. It was crazy.
It's like, oh, you're on the map now. Well, now he can just kill your whole army. That's the problem with being trying to engage with your opponent. It's crazy, too, because Maru's also just getting his 3rd base up always before Cure.
And he's doing it behind aggression as well.
And, you know, guys, usually when you're reading a game of StarCraft, you'll see one guy is expanding and the other one isn't yet. And so the guy that's not expanding should be more likely to take a fight, or at least the person who's expanding has to be kind of prepared to have, even though there's a defender's advantage inherently because you're closer to your production, it's still tricky, right? The fact that Maru is both expanding ahead and winning fights is crazy. You would expect that from like the lowest ranked GSL player, or even back when we had like round of 24 or round of 32 versus the best player. The skill expression that we're seeing here from Maru, and it's versus the 2nd best Terran in Korea, that's so sick.
And I think a lot of it comes back to the way that Maru is going about this early aggression while he's expanding rapidly. Is he always has a backup plan for getting out. Oh, engagement comes in, Hellion with a nice opening shot there from Maru. Oh, he even is able to get one of these Reapers. Can he chase down the 2nd one?
You gotta wonder if, you know, the tilting is really there right now here for Cure. He's gonna lose 2 units immediately. And, you know, this does add up, especially in TVT. It does feel like everything that you make can be used in some way in an early pressure attack or to defend here. I mean, look, Reapers are not very good. The longer the game goes on, they quickly fall off as far as value. But some of these early pokes we've seen from Maru here, the fact that he's going to have 2 Reapers and his opponent won't, that could be big. And you could see Maru's already geared up and ready to send out this first medevac.
Yeah. 2 Marines, Hellion, and a Cyclone in the medevac, 2 Reapers on the ground. Those Reapers add a lot of staying power to this army once it gets to the main base. The grenade kind of functions as a mini stun, able to control the zone a little bit. And the fact that Kira can't go tit for tat with that on the grenades, just losing those 2 units effectively for free, is going to be really painful. Afterburner's activated right now in the medevac. Reaper's following close behind. Kira's got all of his army right now in the natural expansion. He is not ready for this drop in the main base, so everything is going to drop before Kira is in position to engage. Let's see if Maru's actually going to contest this. No, just backs right off. And this is one thing that he's done so well over the course of this entire series is when he goes in for these small attacks, he's getting an SEV or 2, he's getting some idle time, he's getting a depot, but there's always an escape plan. He never trades out the units, he just gets value from them.
He's continuing to control pretty well. I think Kier might actually be okay now. I mean, it will always depend on where Kier is and is not defending, but it looks like he already preempted that drop in the main. He's going to be able to meet this medevac over here. Maru, of course, reacting very fast, pulls right back out. The siege tank coming up here along with the Vikings is where the pushing can actually begin.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for Kier. He's going for the faster 3rd base this time, and it's actually in siege tank range.
I don't think he meant to do that. Yeah, he wanted to unload the Cyclone over there.
Oh, that Raven's in trouble right now. The Cyclone plus the Vikings coming in. The last shot's able to pick it off.
Oh my God.
And that is huge. Interference Matrix is 10 seconds away from completion. This CC has to get canceled.
Oh my God. This is... You don't see damage taken like this at this level of TVT this early.
No, this is looking so much like game number 1 in terms of what Maru is able to do with this Viking transition so early on. He's just reactoring them out. I think another 2 Vikings are coming cross-map. Soon going to join forces with the main army here in the front line. Maru going for the engagement right now. Interference Matrix drops on one of the siege tanks. Vikings not able to finish off that Raven. Instead, they land going for the fight. Maru will finally get pushed back from this position. Kira really needed that win.
Looks like he's just going to barely lose this Viking in the back. And there could be a counterpunch here from Cure.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've really seen Maru go for an attack and have it not pay big dividends.
Right.
And I think really that one came down just a little bit to control. With these armies that Maru is assembling and going for with engagements, it's very tricky to actually micro everything perfectly, even for the top players in the world. I mean, Byun is famous for being able to micro armies with all these groups that just do not look like they have any synergy together whatsoever. And obviously, I mean, players of Kyric's caliber, of Maru's caliber, they're all able to do it, but it's tricky.
Yeah, well, you know, you have a bunch of glass cannon units, and the game moves very fast. I mean, StarCraft 2 is the fastest RTS, so it makes for these slippery conditions where if you do, you know, even for a fraction of a second, lose control of something, things can spiral out of control. There's a medevac moving out along with a bunch of Vikings behind it.
I love this little spotter pylons. Spotter cyclone here for Cure. Oh, nice dropship micro by Maru. I think he's going to go into the main base regardless of this.
I think he wants to probably fake it. Yeah, I don't think he's going to commit to here.
You don't think so? I mean, he has so much air superiority, really. How can Cure ever chase him down?
Oh, the Ravens, though. I guess he probably needs to clear that first.
Oh, boy.
He's going to get another Raven. You know, this is also really bad. When you're accumulating Ravens, you're only going to get value if the spells they cast or the the energy they use for their abilities
goodness.
Are going to do damage.
Sieging up again here, able to kill off the siege tanks and the Marines. This Sky Terran transition that Maru keeps bringing to the table that he did in Game 1 and Game 3 into mech is so impressive.
Yeah, it's funny. He just kind of leaps ahead in the tech. He's going to actually land here. This seems pretty risky, but he takes the tank out.
He knows he can do it.
Yeah. And think of all the TVTs that we've seen, you know, over the, 12-plus years of GSL. You don't really see TVTs like this.
No, the mech is siege tanks, enough siege tanks to get inside of a medevac, and then nothing but Vikings and libs. And then he goes into an armory, and I wonder if we're going to see the fusion core. Yeah, there it is. It immediately goes down. Same build as game number 1. This is such a cool approach to TVT, and it brings the kind of maneuverability that we don't even see Battle Mech able to bring to the table anymore. I mean, the fact that you can just go into the main base and doom drop at effectively any moment because almost all of your units are flying, it's crazy how well this is playing off. Now, Cure's going to go for a counterattack of his own. He has a lot of drop ships, excuse me, headed into the natural expansion here of Maru. Scans, sees that Maru is fortified there. Oh, actually attacking his own command center there for a moment.
Definitely a misclick there. The SCVs are pulled away. Now, if Cure's going to do damage, it would be right now.
But the Vikings, I mean, the medevacs, I don't know if Cure's going to be able to get out of this position, and eventually Maru can force him out, right?
Well, it seems like he's going to be in range to be hit by these Liberators. But now back over here, this drop is shut down. And, you know, if he doesn't siege up and get out, he's just going to lose this game. And it's a little bit like Game 2 where, you know, he just doesn't have the kind of damage. He's going to try to unsiege. I think the Liberator, does not get it. Wow.
That barely dodges, but... Again, the issue with this kind of push for Cure is, yeah, you got these SCVs. It was a pretty reasonable trade. I think Cure's in a better position in this game than he was in the game number 1 against Maru. But still, the fact that Maru is able to leapfrog with Liberators and Siege Tanks and then have air superiority with Vikings means that eventually a drop like that, even when Maru is caught completely out of position, it got cleaned up in probably under a minute with those units being able to move in, leapfrog, and just... It's a force that you can't really contest with almost pure bio, which is what Cure's going with. There is some siege tanks mixed in, but he's going to try again. There are 2 missile turrets there. He scans and sees them. He's going to try and find the other angle on top of the siege tank, actually. Dropping in. 3 siege tanks exposed here for Maru. That's the bulk of his siege tanks, and this is looking a lot better than the first drop.
Yeah, Cure might be able to take this one. Maru might have grown a little bit too fast, not respecting, the fundamentals of bio and tank, and the fact that you can get into these positions where if you're not, buttoned up super tight, they're just going to get in there and crush you.
Well, we'll see if it gets stabilized right now. There are still 5 siege tanks on the map here for Maru. He didn't lose the orbital. It did float off, and behind us, he has a 4th base up and mining already. The battlecruiser transition's in full swing. Cure, if he wants to get damage done, he's going to have to really build momentum off of the damage he's already completed. I feel like this is not the moment to let your foot off the gas pedal here as Cure, because Maru, if he gets a couple of production cycles in, if he gets the sensor towers down so he doesn't get caught out of position again, like he did for the last couple of drops, then suddenly it becomes a really scary prospect here for Cure to try and get more damage done, because if Maru eventually does reach the maxed army and Cure continues to commit so heavily into bio, I'm not sure he's going to be able to get the same damage that he got done in the last couple of minutes, because Maru's army is going to become so cost efficient.
Okay, another big drop in over here. And I mean, what exactly can Maru use to defend here? The damage is coming out so fast. He's going to be hitting almost 3 different places now.
Vikings able to shoo away those medevacs between the 3rd and the 4th.
You know, the supply is so low for Maru as well.
It is, but the army supply isn't that bad considering we have BCs on the board.
True. He just needs to accumulate a little bit more.
He just needs to stabilize.
Cure is sacrificing things with each of these drops, so it's not like he's getting in, destroying an orbital and a couple buildings, and then picking up and running away. But Cure's also growing tremendously in the north.
Yeah, and I think he might finally be able to catch Maru out of position enough to take down one of these big bases. Oh, the repair a little bit delayed right there. I think Maru went for it with his full HP. Oh, Planetary isn't going to be able to repair it in time. No, the bio takes it down.
And now these Marines going to be trapped over here in the corner. Another command center is taken out. Maru's still up against the ropes, but not dead yet. It's not over until it's over. He's still got a decent amount of tanks. At least in that last attack here, basically got the damage and then managed to escape with most of his forces so he can try to come in and look for another opportunity.
Yeah, and Cure is actually throwing down additional barracks. He is focused on ending the game with this army right now. He just wants to continue to power, continue to macro back at home, and almost play this one like a Zerg, taking mass expansions and then throwing army at his meching opponent. Command center gets canceled yet again, but Maru very soon is going to have 4, maybe even 5 battle cruisers on the map, and once he has enough BCs, then suddenly Cure might be in a little bit of trouble. We might need to see him throw down some starports and make a transition, because the Vikings eventually are going to clean up all the medevacs, and the BCs can really, take a pretty good fight against Marines like this one. Now Cure going back into the main base, though. I mean, this is what he's able to do. Oh, wait, can he, though? The Vikings come in.
Yeah, the Vikings can't quite catch the other 2 medevacs. In fact, it's now going to be time for the infantry to try to dive on those Vikings. The BCs are going to try to come in here.
Vehicle plating barely completed there. A huge win for Maru, and the BC's now going to be able to clean everything up. But behind this, Cure, he is remaxing. Oh, I think he's able to get the fusion core.
Yeah, he gets it too.
Very good drop right there for Cure, even though he didn't get the +2 armor.
He scans a natural. At this point in time, it's going to be 5 bases for Cure. Nearly maxed out. Maru's still barely hanging on, but his tank count's growing, his BC count is growing. We just got to see when is it going to be his turn to move out. But again, a couple more blows like this come in here from Cure, and Maru might just have to tap out and go to game 4.
Oh, watch out, though. These BCs in a really good position. Going to snipe at least one. Oh, one full medevac goes down there on the right side to the battlecruisers. I thought for sure the Vikings were going to catch another one on the left side.
I thought the same thing. He's going to send the battlecruisers out because he knows he can just teleport them back home. But this will at least keep the infantry off of his back. Marauder's going to be coming straight through here, eating some shots from those tanks. And I guess there really isn't much. Oh, well, I guess there's more tanks down there at the bottom, but there's a lot of holes here in the defenses.
Yeah, the right side's quite exposed. These BCs actually taking a really good trade, though, against those Marines right now.
The natural seems pretty open. The tanks come out and are killed off almost immediately. That's going to give Cure access to Maru's main.
Yeah, Maru now going into the 4th base of Cure. He wants to kill more SCVs before he TPs back at home because he knows how bad his position is in terms of economics. But actually, no, with the reinforcing BCs here, he might just be able to clean this up.
Yeah, it's just Marauders, actually.
One more BC going to TP back at home to be repaired. 6 battlecruisers in total on the map.
And you're seeing just how well these air upgrades have served him. So he lands a CC. It's 3 base versus, now it is 5 base, but there's a lot of SCVs that have been killed. Cure is still ahead in workers. And, he could still continue to roam here. The Marines really barely do any scratches to these BCs. They can kind of move unimpeded.
And the Yamato cannons on the Vikings as well, just completely resetting the Viking count, even trying to work his way forward to snipe that one off. Maru, he's making a lot of really big plays right now with these BCs. And the thing is, they're basically all going to survive because the Viking count's so low. Cure can't really threaten them with a snipe.
This is kind of wild, man. I mean, keep in mind, he could send those right back home and repair. They're almost even in workers.
This might be almost a breaking point where now Cure is the one getting pulled apart because there's so much dead airspace, and with the Yamato cannons, Cure never got his Viking transition online, so Maru could just run circles around him. The Marines, they don't have the maneuverability, which sounds insane to say about the Marine, one of the fastest units in the game when it's stimmed with medevacs.
No, it's funny. The BC can kind of play keep away here. We've got a big push coming in here now, and I think
it's
the
Marauders.
BCs, unless they lay on their back and shoot in the air, there's nothing they can do. He's going to take the CC out. Is Maru going to do this? By the way, at this point in time, Cure has less SCVs, and that number is going to get worse. He can't afford to try to go there and repair that because I don't think he has a real answer for the BCs that are up here. The Marauders continue to roam, but again, he just has the wrong unit against the composition that Maru is eventually able to build up to.
And look at the army supply right now for Cure. It's at 124, but about 50 of that army supply is in Marauders. It's not in units that can shoot up. Maru, a lot of his is just here in the BCs, and even this big clunk of Marines is only able to get one of these battlecruisers. Can he get the second one? No, I mean, they're so tricky, man, able to abuse the airspace like this. Vikings now coming in. The pure Marauder army is going to try and attack into these siege tanks. He actually canceled the teleport, I think, just to take this fight, and then goes for it again.
Yeah, well, he just realizes, okay, if I can keep killing these Vikings over and over. Look, we've had, what, 1 or 2 battlecruisers picked off, but it's like he's just continuing to amass this fleet that can do so much damage. Cure, by the way, expands to the south, just anywhere where the battlecruisers were not. Cure is roaming with these Marauders, and it's like, it's a weird situation when you've built up to these units that got you this far in the game and now have no use, no utility. They can't even fight what is, at this point in time, starting to kill Cure in this game.
Yeah, I think Cure might be kicking himself a little bit for not starting his Viking transition sooner. If he had thrown down 1 or 2 starports instead of additional barracks and just really focused in on the Vikings, because the BCs are carrying so much of the weight right now for Maru. And a lot of it is because they can't really get killed when they move into the dead airspace. Now another very big scan for Maru identifies exactly where the army is.
Now he might not have enough to take on the infantry here, so we might need to see a BC warp back here.
It depends on the TP cooldown. Oh, all of the mules. Now they're only about halfway done, but Cure's just going to fully commit right now. He's stimming forward, immediately takes down these siege tanks here on the front line. Vikings trying to trade out as best they can here for Maru. It's basically just the BCs. 6 siege tanks in total for Maru. 6 battlecruisers on the field. Maru's going to try and get as much damage done as he can and then TP back home.
Yeah, now he still has 1 mining base. He's going to try to kill off all the SCVs. At this point in time, it's going to be Cure going for the infrastructure.
Tasteless, there's only 2 medevacs on the field. These Marines are solo HP. They're not going to get healed up.
Yeah, they can start to get one-shotted very quickly here.
Oh, and the Yamato on the Vikings.
I think Maru could still win this.
I think it's doable. There's 40 Marines with only 2 medevacs. Those Marines have stimmed at least 3 or 4 times. The production is getting cleaned up right now here for Cure. Even the medevacs are on almost no HP.
Yeah. He needs to get his tanks configured in the best possible way. I'm so surprised he hasn't, teleported back yet.
Oh, this game is crazy. Those siege tanks, I think, are going to crawl back to the planetary fortress because the splash damage from the PF and the siege tanks is so huge.
He's continuing to just destroy. I mean, these guys are wiping each other out. But again, this core defense here, even Depot's coming down in the front.
What an insane game.
A scan here. He's just waiting. Give me the moment where you try to dive in. There are these, displaced bases that are beginning to mine. But look at this. All the infrastructure is going to go.
Cure's throwing down initial starports because he needs medevacs and he needs Vikings to try and deal with this. He knows that if he attacks into that planetary, with the 4 siege tanks and these BCs able to TP back, and his army on basically 60% HP, it's not going to be a good trade, but he's losing so much back at home, he might just have to go for it.
There's only 18 workers right now here for Cure. About 30 here for Maru.
Can't believe what I'm seeing.
He's going to kill off the rest of these workers. Cure's going to go for it. Here we go!
All right, Stim coming forward. This planetary is getting taken out.
SCV's
Orbital Command
pulled.
2. SCVs are pulled, absorbing a lot of damage. The BCs teleport back right now. The siege tank is getting so much damage on the bio. I think Maru might have done it.
GG.
Wow.
I got to say, man, that was a great game, a great series. What a special ending as well. And again, Maru comes out here with this new kind of tech.
A game where Maru was on death's door for minutes at a time, Kira just kept going in with doom drop after doom drop after doom drop, and it looked like each blow had the potential to be fatal. But Maru just threads the needle, barely survives by the skin of his teeth, and now he's going to the finals in a rematch against Hero from a GSL of many years ago. And what an outstanding set of games. I mean, that was the 3-0, but I mean, what Maru showcased in Game 1 and Game 3 was so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, that was such a special series. I thought it was going to be closer. I really did. I thought Maru probably wins, but each game was like a special story of how Maru is just better than everybody else in the world of TVT.
And what a cool way of transitioning into mech.
Yeah.
The 2 siege tanks in a medevac with Viking
Two
into
factory,
Battlecruiser.
into BC, kind of get in their face early and then dial it back, turtle up, and tech. And, you know, it's funny, when I saw Curie doing it, I thought, yeah, that's the right way to do it. Yeah, just take the whole map. But it turns out if you can accumulate that many BCs, you're going to be fine. Guys, Hero versus Maru is our final. I got to say, man, both players look so good, but Maru looks especially scary. Obviously, the fundamentals will be different here because it's a PVT and not a mere matchup. But, I mean, is Maru going to win his 8th GSL, a G8L?
G8L.
An 8SL. I don't know. Man.
What a ride. That was an insane series. And you know what's scary here for Hero too is that Maru said coming into this one that he doesn't want to play TVT. He's not feeling confident in the matchup. If that's Maru not being confident against a top 3 Terran in the world, the second best Terran player in Korea and Cure, who over the years has just been getting better and better and better, this is going to be a banger of a finals, man. I mean, Hero is looking on top of his game. He looks like prime form Hero again. He looks like the Hero that won a GSL a couple of years ago. And Maru is once again looking like the best player in the world. Those were stunning games.
It was crazy what he was able to do. It is going to be a best of 7. Hopefully we get to Game 7. We've had some one-sided, very short semifinal matches here, but sometimes that means that the finals has to be long and close.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man.
Fingers crossed, man.
Really hope it's a good one, and I think this show can deliver.
We'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned for the finals.
Incoming transmission.